How we doing, guys? Good to be back with you. I think last time we were together was probably about 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, and we talked about some of the improvements we were seeing during fall camp, and I think we're seeing a bit of a continuation of that during these first 4 weeks into the season. I think the strengths of our room right now are obviously the experience and maturity, and then leadership. The group of seniors and then the two juniors getting a lot of playing time have done a nice job showing up to work every day, good attitude, have a really good improvement mindset for a group of guys that have played a while, and then obviously we have that young group pushing pretty hard too. So just finished up with the bye week and getting into game week again, and take any questions that you guys might have.
All right, Coach, first question will be from Elliot Clough.
Morning, George. Good to see you.
Well,
The thing that I think is standing out about the offensive line is how much push they're getting in the run game. And I'm sure you'll credit Caleb Johnson a little bit in that regard too. But I guess I'm curious about pass protection and how you get that up to that level that the run game and the run blocking is performing at.
Yeah, I think when you talk about third downs in red zone, Coach Lester mentions this often. Those are the two areas when you put in a new offense that come probably the latest, and in the development and the schematics and things like that. That's something that we have to continue to push and continue to improve our fundamentals and that sort of thing. We've had some snaps where it's been really good, and then we've had usually in a game over the last 20 years, you got two or three a game that you'd love to have back. Take the last week, we had a third down situation. We had a protection set up for a specific look, and they changed the look in the first quarter. So we had to do some adjustment on the fly on the sideline and at halftime. So that's that chess match and protection. That's always give and take. And I think that's like that at every level, especially college and at the next level. But the biggest thing for us is to continue to work on our fundamentals daily and keep working together in that and seeing the picture.
Next question is from Tom Kakert.
Hey, George. Good to see you.
So,
wanted to ask you about some of the younger guys, Peeper, Leighton Jones, Lau, those guys. How are they progressing and moving forward since fall camp?
Yeah, they're doing a nice job. Bye week we're able to ramp those guys up even more. Obviously, Peeper's been in game action. He's repped a ton of center for us and is looking pretty good. He's showing some good signs. Lauk and Leighton Jones are working with the twos right now. Last week you saw them, they got out of the frying pan a little bit of game week, and you saw them take a pretty good step forward, and attitudes have been really good. And so we like where that group's going, and we've invested. Coaches invested a lot of reps in practice. Like that's why I'm probably running a little bit behind. Just a little bit of more post-practice work with that development push group.
Next question is from David Eichholt.
George, appreciate you taking the time. Caleb Johnson and you guys have had success running against a stacked box. I mean, I think Caleb's averaging over 10 yards a carry. I mean, what have you kind of seen, whether it be, from the wide receivers blocking? Jacob Gill had a couple highlight worthy blocks that I'm sure made you proud last week watching that. But what have you seen from the offensive line and how they've really established themselves against a stacked box? Because it seems like they're wasting no time and still getting a big push.
Yeah, we've seen it all so far this year. We've seen a lot more pressure than we're used to seeing. We've seen some numbers in there, and the run game. When you start talking about numbers and things like that, it's certainly all 11. And that's kind of it's a little bit misunderstood outside of the building. The way our tight ends blocked last Saturday, where our running backs ran last Saturday, where our wide receivers blocked. We're going to start putting a couple chairs in there in our room for those guys, just in tribute. But it's really good to see. And when everyone's working together, it just energizes everyone to do their job. And Coach Lester's done a tremendous job emphasizing the importance of blocking. up front, it's just us doing our job, seeing the picture. We went into last week's game and, they brought some new blitzes right off the bat and a lot of movement, which we weren't used to seeing out of that front. They've been pretty stable and stagnant over the years. So that's something that we have to continue to adjust to on the sideline. I thought our guys did a good job as the game went. Whether it's with the iPads or just a verbal conversation of getting things dialed in. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, seeing the picture, good first steps, aiming points, and just playing the right way, playing aggressive and physical. And I think our guys are starting to taste a little of that.
John Steppe.
Hi, George. Good to see you. Thanks for making the time. Kind of wanted to ask along those lines, kind of what's the biggest thing you've seen from this offensive line this year versus maybe a year or two ago, aside from just experience, for them to be opening kind of such nice holes here for Caleb Johnson so often?
Yeah, I think it reads like a book. Last year we started to see a lot of things, a lot of good things, and you saw it going in the right direction. And then this fall camp and within this first part of the season, you see older guys, more experience, more mature, bigger, stronger. Therefore, they're able to practice more consistently. The lineup stays more consistent. That's what we talked about in 2022. That's where you want to get the room to, and you want to keep it there as much as you can, because when that happens, you get more consistency. And as you guys all know, when 5 guys play together as much as they can in stable positions, the chemistry increases, and then the confidence increases. They're able to cut it loose a little bit more. But that's the big thing. And just a hunger to improve. We're just getting started here. It's early in the season, and our guys know that we're far from where we want to be. We want to be talking another 6 weeks and seeing a lot of improvement. But it starts with an attitude and a daily work ethic, and those seniors and juniors, those leaders, those guys that have been through the fire big time. It's good to see those guys come to work every day with an attitude and confidence that they need.
Chad Leistico.
Hey, George, great to see you. It's crazy thinking about the 2022 game at Ohio State. The same 5 guys are still on your roster, obviously 2 years older. Some of them are in different spots now. But how do you turn that experience, that maturity, into success? And what are the biggest challenges, I guess, for these guys going into facing a team like Ohio State that obviously has immense talent at every level?
Yeah. First of all, starting with Ohio State, it's easily one of the best defensive fronts in college football. They have tremendous talent, tremendous size, speed, power. They're well coached. Coach Knowles does a tremendous job with those guys. When you watch them on film, you know exactly what they're trying to get done, and they do it with force. Very impressive group. It'll be a great challenge. But as far as comparing to 2022, it's anyone can kind of tell the story. It's definitely a different. It's the same group, but it's a different group, and it should be. It should be. Now, if they listened to all the outside noise in 2022, they should have just packed it in and quit. But they didn't. They didn't flinch. The great thing about it, Iowa football and Coach Ferentz's program, you do believe in development, and you do believe sticking with kids and working through adversity, and you don't flinch. And it's a tribute to the kids and how they've handled their business. But yeah, this is another game week that we have to work through the process. And Tuesday's Tuesday and Wednesday's Wednesday, and it's hard, and there's a lot of work being done, a lot of film work. But yeah, the challenge that's coming up is a great one. It is a great one. It's a big one, and it's something that hopefully we're excited for.
Corey Breda.
Morning, Coach.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not going to pretend to be any line expert. I think the average fan probably understands less about offensive line play than maybe any other position group on the football field. So going back to that Minnesota game, it seemed like, especially in that first half, Minnesota was sending a lot of 5-man pressure. And the average fan may look at the game and say, well, you've got 5 offensive linemen. They should be able to block 5 rushers. Can you talk about the challenges that brings, and the disadvantaged position that a center plays in pass protection in those situations when there's that extra guy coming?
Yeah, I mean, there was times they were bringing 6 and 7, 6 mostly. But the big thing is identifying the fronts. That's the biggest job of the center, is identifying the different looks. And then we have different protections based off that. We have a call protection, and we can adjust the protection based on the different alignments and schematics of the defense. And then you have new stuff. People aren't, defenses aren't crazy. You're gonna see new stuff. You can rep what you've seen on film all week, and you're going to get in that first half, and you're going to be on the sideline working on about 2 or 3 different looks. And Minnesota game was a great example of that.
David Eichholt.
Yeah, George, I mean, obviously you guys are running some different running schemes than you were last year, and it seems like spring really kind of helped you guys install that, despite maybe other positions on the offense not really having guys that are playing significant time. But kind of watching throughout the first few weeks, it seems like that outside toss play to Caleb Johnson has just been explosive for you guys time and time again. How have you guys really been able to maximize the execution on those outside runs? Just kind of utilize Caleb Johnson, get him in open space, but it just seems like you guys are really, really keeping defenses on edge when you guys go to the outside with that toss.
Yeah, I think it's the mixture of all of them, Dave. Like, being able to run an inside zone and a mid zone, and then being able to seal off a gap with a gap and pull, or an outside run. Just that mix of all three. And then, obviously Caleb is a kid that if you can get him in space or get him to the second level, he makes a difference for sure. But all of our runs kind of feed off each other. And then the formations and movements and things like that all tie in, trying to make looks similar and that kind of deal.
John Steppe.
You were mentioning the sideline tablets earlier, and I was curious, kind of what's your perspective on that through 4 games now? Do you like that as kind of a teaching tool in game, and kind of how do you utilize that?
At first I wasn't sure how it was going to go, because I think you can overcoach a little bit. I think you could get a little bit too inundated. We as coaches want to have all the answers, and you could turn that thing into a classroom, and that's not a classroom. It's a sideline, and it's game day, and calmness and getting to the next play is really important. So that finding that balance between reviewing things and making slight adjustments, and then sometimes major adjustments when you start talking about third downs and protections and things like that. It gets major quickly most weekends. And but yeah, it's turned out to be better than I thought it was going to be. One of the neat things that I've seen is, in the past, a kid would make a mistake, and you come to the sideline, you knew you saw it from the sideline, you start asking questions, and a kid's like, oh geez, he doesn't feel great because he did make a mistake, which happens in games. But now with the tablets, it's all out in the open, so it's you get past that first. The kids own it faster. Hey, here it is. Here's the mistake. It happens. Here's how we're going to adjust. We can see it on film. But you just got to be choosy with how much you do. You don't want to flood the kid's head with 800 different things. You want to keep it streamlined as much as possible.
Chad.
Hey, George, circling back to Tom's question. One of the things Kirk Ferentz talked about as a high priority in fall camp was developing that second offensive line unit, because you can see the seniors on your line. It's going to be different next year. So I guess from your perspective now, we're about 2 months since I think we talked, at media day or whatever. So where has that development gone? And do you see like your seniors kind of being able to sort of pass the baton, so to speak, when that happens?
Yeah, that's I'm glad you brought that. That's the best part of it, because the seniors now didn't have a ton of that ahead of them just because of the situation we were in. They had a couple guys, but the consistency wasn't there. Now this, I call them the push group, the guys that were trying to push up to that next level for next year. They've got a whole group of guys that they can watch, learn from, and our older guys. I mean, it's Iowa football. They embrace the younger guys fast, and they're helping them every day. But been really pleased how that group is working. And again, we're doing quite a bit of work with them. They're getting some 2 reps, but they're also getting some Devo reps at the end of practices, and at least twice a week. So really pleased where that's going, and we're just going to keep pushing forward. But the attitudes have been good. There's not really anybody you go, I don't know if he's going to be able to. Most of it's, you're excited about the kid, and they continue to improve.
Elliot?
Hey, George, I'm just curious about the incorporation of Tim Lester as OC and how much he's been around with the offensive line and how much his scheme has kind of helped you guys push things forward. Do you feel like it's just, maybe another year of added experience that has gotten your guys to where they are and the improvements they've made? How much has Tim maybe had an effect on your group this year?
Oh, I think he's certainly had an effect, and an offensive coordinator should. And I think he's done a tremendous job of tying things together and tying position groups together, whether it be in unit meetings, whether it be, just simply in the huddle before we start a series in practice. He's up there talking to the big guys and, getting them to smile a little bit and talking through things. And, I think that Tim's done a great job and continues to do a great job. And, I think it's just a mixture of both. It's exactly what it looks like. You got older guys that have been through the mix a little bit, and they're playing fast and physical, and then you got, as we move forward each week, each day of practice, you just get a little bit more melted into the schematics and the timing and things like that, and we're still a work in progress. That's the fun part. You just keep coaching, and you keep coming to work every day, and we got a bunch of willing guys that want to keep getting better and keep getting in sync with the offense.
All right, George, we'll go 2 more questions. First one is John Steppe.
Going back to the mid zone, Waddell was talking a couple weeks ago about how kind of first implementing in the spring didn't necessarily look pretty, but then kept repping it. Was there a point where you felt like things were really clicking in terms of implementing that mid zone? And then for kind of the layperson, how would you kind of describe what that mid zone creates that's maybe different from the inside zone and the outside zone that I think Iowa fans have been used to seeing in past years?
I think we started to see, it's funny because the last time we did our coaches press conference in preseason camp, it was like those previous 2 practices where you started to see the tempo mesh together a little bit. You start to see it click a little bit, and it's still a work in progress, but there's definitely everyone's in sync together, and as the season goes, it'll continue to improve. And as far as the specific play, anytime you implement a specific play, it takes time. It takes time to develop, and you stick with it. There's a lot of similarities to what we've done in the past, but there's some nuances that are a little bit different. But the biggest thing is making sure our aiming points and who we're working together with, and then make sure we're able to play at a tempo up front, getting off the ball together and being together as we get to the second level. You take care of the first level, and you got to get to the second level together also. So, but those are the things we're starting to see. But it's the fun part is it's a scratching of the surface. You just keep pushing forward and keep getting it. And each week the game plan's a little bit different with formations and movements and the pictures of the defense. And so there's a little bit of relearning each week and adjusting and getting it melted back in by Saturday. And that's the fun part of this.
All right, final question, Corey Breda.
George, Tim talked a little bit last week about having some deep shots ready, and situation didn't really present itself against Minnesota to really take many deep shots. I'm just curious, do you in general feel comfortable with the O-line where it's at as far as being able to protect for deeper shots down the field? And are there situations where you may, even during the course of a game, chime in and say, hey, I don't think we can protect here or here, given a play call that Coach Lester may have on the table?
No, we haven't had that conversation.
All right, very good. Thank you for your time this morning, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
George.
Thanks, George.